friends, what is going on? Hold on, let me shut my music. Turn the music off. It's about that time. It's your favorite time of the day. You are tuned into the Arrington Gavin podcast. Boy, am I excited to talk with you all on this great day. Again, coming to you with the new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time via podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. And also 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via YouTube. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel, our Smooth Club Media. We continue to, give you some great content with that. And it's growing slowly but surely. It takes some time with YouTube, to grow the platform. But I truly thank you for those who, support the show, continue to tune in all the time. And yeah, just support. We're getting some, we're going places. I'll tell you that we're going places. As you see, I'm in my one of my favorite studios. I'm in the home studio. You see my bookshelf back there. Yes, a little. Don't mind the wrinkles. I am an avid reader. Okay, don't say Arrington looks like a shower curtain. Watch your mouth, sir. Watch your mouth. I do read from time to time, but I read on my phone. I read on social media. That's still reading, right? It might be like 30 seconds, but whatever. Look, y'all, we are. I'm excited because, like I've mentioned before, this is election season, and what I've been doing lately is having a few of my friends that work in the political field, local politics, state politics, and they not even have to be, candidates. I mean, I want to talk with the people that are involved, right? Whether it's community activists, a lot of people behind the scene, because those are the ones you want to really get your insights from. And I've mentioned before too, it's always great to come to an understanding and having knowledge on politics on a local level. We always see on TV, we hear about the president and those, the higher up politicians all the time. But guess what? You tend to forget, okay, what's going on in my backyard? I'm talking school board. I'm talking your council. I'm talking even small committees. Get involved, y'all. Please get involved, especially, coming from a business owner, is very important to get involved with what's happening in your backyard. And so, like I mentioned, we have some major elections going on. And since then, I've had friends that are candidates, some that are current officials, people that are campaign consultants. And today on the show, I have my good buddy, Mr. Conrad. And let me make sure I get his last name right. Schesventer. There we go. See, that's what look. First try, y'all. First try. He is the host of Schesswho. That is such a damn clever name. Oh, lucky. Schesswho, which you can tune in on YouTube. Man, it's a great show. And he's also the co-founder of the 757 Battlecats, and also the co-founder of the Virginia Beach Progressive Caucus. Man, this guy, he has interviewed some current candidates, and I mean, he asked some amazing questions. He's one of the guys where I'm like, man, I gotta take notes, because I'm here just having a conversation with you all. But this guy, he gets it. He does his research. He's on his Barbara Walters, man. He's like, okay, let's get it to it. So I'm excited to have him on. Without further ado, let me bring on my good friend, Mr. Conrad. Conrad, how you doing, my friend?
I'm excellent. I'm really happy to be on this show. I've been watching a couple of them. Like, I also need to take notes, because look at the design. Look at the top right. It's got the A Gavin podcast. I'm like, you know what? This is a design, a quality of a show that I really like. So I'm really glad to be on as well.
Man, well, look, I truly appreciate it. One thing that we definitely have in common is we are very, I would say, we pay attention when it comes to, politics on a local standpoint, right? And I always say, I'm still a student. I'm continuing to learn, and you're somebody that has, been there, done that, and is still continue to, not promote, but inform people with, with great knowledge. You have candidates on both sides, which I highly respect, because again, it's you have to. We live in a universal world where it's like, hey, look, you can't always be on one side. You have to always hear from both sides of the aisle, and I'm a big proponent of that. And we were just speaking before the show. I spoke to some of my friends. Hey, look at this guy. He's a chair for the Republican Party. My other buddy, he's the chair for the Democratic Party. Yeah, we're all friends. We all great. That's where it's at. But I think now in today's society, it's taught a lot of division. It's taught to say, okay, look, go on this side. This is where it's at. Don't try and what's the word I'm looking for? Bipartisan. No, this is strictly partisan. No, we're gonna stay in our lane right here. So Again, I just want to give you your flowers with that.
Thank
A
you.
little, if you mind, Conrad, giving the folks a quick background, about you. I know you. I mentioned before, host of Schesswho, which I'm very jealous of that name because it's very clever. And you're co-founded two action packs actually. Well, the 757 Battlecats and the Virginia Beach Progressive Caucus. Now, is Virginia Beach, was that where you originally grew up in the V Beach area?
Born in 1986, right in the first colonial area.
Okay.
At the time, Virginia Beach General Hospital lived all the way through April of 2022 is when I finally moved to Portsmouth. So I'm still in the 757, but up until
Mhm.
that point, I was a Virginia Beach guy.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, look, Conrad, man, what got you involved in, you know, a lot of what really got you involved in community? Because I wouldn't just say politics. So what it is, you're very involved in the community and building up the community, man. What got you involved in being very hands-on as in a form of activism?
High school. In high
Mm,
school, joining the football team, that's when you really get to see what working with the team aspect is like. Up until that point, I would go to school, not hang out with that many people when I get back home. So I'm
mhm,
in my own little world. But when I decided I wanted to join the Salem High School football team and did that for 3 years, being more friendly with a lot more people, then you realize this is what community
mhm,
is everyone all at once. So I sort of took that on from there. I didn't really blend it with politics until much later after high school. I had been interested in politics, but the
mhm.
community aspect started then, took a lull, and then now with these organizations, I could be more hands on.
I like it. I like it, man. It's almost the same for me. Like I was very I think honestly after college for me, I started getting more involved. I get will be as a business owner. As a business owner, I really started paying more attention than I did in high school. I remember when we had elections. I remember actually when, like, of course, one of the biggest elections I will say during my era during the school years. Well, in middle school was when I think I was might have been in seventh grade when Obama got elected his first term,
I
and
was in college.
that was not calling you an old man or
Yeah.
anything, but no.
No, I remember that night, election night. I'm watching the returns, and I'm in my dorm room, which is Ireland House now. It should be what is the name of that particular dorm. And I hear cheers when the elections are called, and I'm in my dorm room watching television. I'm like, where are the cheers coming from? I look out the window. People are going through the quads, celebrating that
Wow,
Obama's
wow.
elected. That's how significant his was.
It was very historic, and see, it was interesting. It was a different response for me because okay, so I'm a Chesapeake guy, lifelong Chesapeake resident, but I attended private school. I attended a private school out in Norfolk, and I remember attending school that day after he had got elected. It was a different crowd because I was the minority. I would say I
Mhm.
was the minority, and a lot of my friends, all my friends, my close friends, came from very strong conservative, Republican households, and it was very opposite, and it was funny because I'll just say like the few other African American kids that was in my class, we kind of ran to each other in a little corner like now we didn't really pay attention to politics. We just knew how big and historic this was, especially in a black household. We knew how major this was. I remember when the inauguration happened. My mom was like, "Oh no, you're gonna take this day off. You're gonna take this day off. We're watching it." And it was, I mean, I had all my my cousins, my aunts. We all sat down. It was very historic. So I would say that moment in middle school. Okay, boom, put it in focus. Started paying attention at what my parents were watching on TV and stuff. Because as a kid, you kind of just lean towards what route your parents go. You really don't know too much until you're really on your own. College, I believe, was I can't remember which year, but of course the Hillary and Trump the
16.
election 26. Okay, so that was probably my junior year. That was pretty major. And then once after college as a business owner, I'm like, I really got to get more involved. I just started really watching all sorts of politics. I mean, excuse me, all
Mhm.
sorts of news shows, whether it was CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, you name it, I watched it all. And so I started to kind of put that focus on the local aspect. And since then, I've just always been very involved, building great contacts and relationships with those running for office and things like that. But no, it's I definitely I can piggyback how what got you really involved, man. But I mean, you're doing it because again to be a part of an organization, to be a co-founder of not one but two organizations, man. What made you want to start that? What got you out? Let's start with the 757 Battlecats. Can you explain what to the listeners and the viewers about the 757 Battlecats?
Well, in a second, I'll go onto my phone here and read off more of a general description, because I would like people who are interested after hearing me say it to
Mm-hmm.
come on and join it, because we would love as many people to join. But joining something like that is not something I had at the start of my political interest. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, you mentioned that you grew up in an area that seemed more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're around that all the time, you might develop some conservative views yourself, because that's
Mm-hmm.
the area that you're in. I remember that my interest in politics started way back around the Bush-Gore election in
Oh
2000,
wow.
and I was in middle school. But even being around my parents a lot and sometimes helping them work, talk radio was on.
Mm-hmm.
So conservative talk radio is the dominant fashion from 2000 up through now. So even all the way through the Obama administration, I was kind of Republican libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out of it, watching a lot of the Trump stuff on television since 2016, it really changed how I viewed the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I ran it a few times in Virginia Beach for city council in 18, 19, and 20. And
Mm-hmm.
each time I'm like, the issues that are speaking to me now are more Democrat. So that would explain the Virginia Beach Progressive Caucus, because I'm progressive, but the community action team is more, we need to figure out a way to weigh our local politicians in a constant accountability factor. We can
Mm-hmm.
say the entire city council doesn't do what we wanted to do, say on this zoning votes or flooding referendums, XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
But you can abstractly think that that's the entire city's city council that's not doing well for you. But there could be someone in there who probably voted the way you wanted, and you never know it because you just, from a distance, was talking about the entirety of the council.
Yeah.
So when we bring in people from each city to the community action team, the people who are part of the CAT have to study the city council meetings, school board if they have the time,
Mm-hmm.
and then watch how they vote. And then we have policies that we know are supportive to the Black community, because got to be honest, community action team is focused on Black empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have people who are studying the votes and realizing that they're going to have a lot of people who aren't going to vote that way, then we can create a little report card. And we're already working on the process for that for Portsmouth and Virginia Beach right now. Then we can release it and educate more people in the populace in Hampton Roads to, like, hey, they're not up to snuff. Here are reasons why. And I think that should spur a lot more people to both be interested in following local politics and then actually doing local politics by sort of studying it the way we might. I've always thought this, make it like how you appreciate sports. I'm a big Raiders fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they won the past couple games, but it didn't really feel like we won. I would feel like Devontae Adams, where like I'm not actually getting the ball. So, but I want greatness. So if
Yeah.
we want to see greatness in a local politics level too. Community action team founded specifically to monitor them to see if they're actually being great or not.
Why do you, and so that brings me to the question, like, why do you think though that I would say people really don't pay attention if they're local. If I go up to a few people and I say, hey, look, who's on your local council? Who's on your current council right now? Who's on your school board? They're like mayor the mayor West. I'm not talking about Family Guy. I'm talking about you know what I mean? Like, it's just we literally, I mean, no one knows, nor do they care. But what kills me is that it's very easy to complain. It's very easy to give your complaint, but people don't even know about their local, .gov websites, right? They don't know about when city meetings are and things like that. Like, why do you think people really fall short on the knowledge of when it comes to local politics, in your opinion?
As you were saying it, I was trying to brainstorm, and I think it's because newspaper died.
Mm,
And for instance, I was at the Dollar Tree just yesterday. I saw a Virginian pilot at the edge of the counter, and it said at the bottom the delegates race. Because, yeah, I was like, hey, they're probably going to have something regarding the state senate as well. I want to grab a couple more ideas, because I was going to interview someone later in the day who's running for the state senate. So I wanted to have all that information. But the pilot has been bought by a larger company from out of state. The readership's going down, the online is going down. So this is how you find out about local stuff.
Mhm.
Where is our focus these days? Right here on a show like this. And we would watch, say, the nightly news. We might watch the 6 p.m. on NBC, WVEC if we
Mhm.
want to, but otherwise we're going to be watching a streaming service or something like that. If we watch politics, we're going to turn it to CNN or Fox or MSNBC, and we're going to get a mainstream version of politics that they might talk about your state every now and then, but they're really talking about national politics all the
Yeah.
time. So our declining interest in local politics is probably going to be with the rising interest in national politics.
That is very true. That is very true. Uh, to say that you mentioned also your shift in political stances, right? Starting, probably, Republican Libertarian and changing it after, I believe, was it the Trump and Hillary, or was it way before then?
Um,
I
even
was. Mhm.
past the 16 election, while I was getting more and more anti-Republican, I wasn't
Mhm.
really feeling that I was getting more and more Democrat. Even when I ran for the special election for the Centerville seat in 2018,
Mhm.
I felt very independent, very libertarian at the
Mhm.
time. And I'm like, hey, I could speak to issues on a local slate.
Mhm.
They would be more libertarian-ish.
Got you.
I really noticed that there was a thing called modern monetary theory, which I really started to work on, try to digest mentally. And over the past couple of years, it finally sunk in that I don't need to be so scared of the concept of federal taxation
Mm.
and federal spending. And if I'm not going to be scared of it, where would I want federal spending to go if I wasn't worried about it anymore?
Mhm.
Then that would open the door to supporting a lot more progressive caucus, or
That's
not
man, that
progressive
is
caucus, but
so that is
progressive
it's
ideas.
funny you say that, because when you hear of other voters who, I'm like, okay, you're voting for this person. Why are you voting? Because they always rely on like one thing. And I'm like, now you realize that one thing is very small in this whole entire, whether if it's a Democratic side or Republican side. I think that's why I've always kind of been a middle person. I've always said, no, I don't really go with the herd. I'm always in the middle, because hey, there's gonna be times where I'm not really gonna be agreeing too much with what this side has to say. Oh, you make more sense on that side, but majority of people in America, and this is just coming from me, I think that majority are independent. People are people that's like, if we actually sit down, have a conversation, when we start naming issues, we're all gonna be like, we got the same exact issue. But I will agree on also. Uh, the Trump and Hillary campaign, really, I'll just say the Trump presidency really changed a lot of people, because in my opinion, politics is starting to be more of money over morals, and
Hmm.
controversy sells, right? And this man, regardless of your stance on him, but the more allegations or the more indictments he gets, the higher his poll numbers. Like right now, he's the man to beat. He's the man to beat, as far as the Republican nominee. But I
You might
think
even say, as of right now, he's the man to beat in terms of the whole national election,
that's right.
because
That's right.
the
Because he has
past
higher
month or
poll numbers
so,
than.
Biden's numbers were starting to fall. I did see a video today about a Marist poll that had suddenly Biden was back up 7%, but that is only because they included RFK as an independent in the ballot. And I
Mm,
believe it started to take a little bit more from Trump than it would have from Biden. But that's only very, very recently. Otherwise, Trump was the one with the momentum.
yeah, and I actually I want to talk more on the federal stance, but let me kind of bring us into the on the local side.
Yes.
What are some elections that have been catching your attention, as far as, ooh, this is the one that people you want to look out for? This is a very important district or important race you should focus on. Any elections that have caught your attention?
The Aaron Rouse and Kevin Adams race is one I'm
Okay.
particularly interested in. State Senate, because it used to be a very Republican district.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Wagner was someone who had that area of Virginia Beach in the state Senate for over a decade. He's
Mm-hmm.
now, I think, like a transportation secretary or something to that effect. He was then replaced in that seat by Jen Kiggins, who's now in Congress. who that's how she was able to ascend, was from his seat. And then Aaron was initially able to get in via the special election.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's immediately running again as the incumbent. And Kevin Adams wasn't that far off last time.
It
I
was
think
a very close race. It was a very close race.
it's very close. About a month or so back, I wanted to go to Mom's Kitchen, I believe, on Holland Road in Virginia Beach to
Mm-hmm.
watch the Virginia Beach Tea Party bring in John Moss, who's running for mayor in 2024, Bobby Dyer, the current mayor of Virginia Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and Rosemary Wilson, the vice mayor, to just have like a forum where they can clearly Moss was going to be against the other two as an establishment type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't show up, just Moss did. But Bryce Reeves, who is a state senator, traveled down from Richmond in order to be there and to speak. And he said that the Republicans are really highlighting the Kevin Adams, Aaron Rouse rate as one to flip.
Mm.
And the state Senate is the one where Democrats, they have their majority, and it's the House of Delegates where they have a minority. So if they slip it a couple more seats, then we might see Youngkin as the Republican, a Republican state Senate and a Republican House of Delegates. And that is the one that I think could spur the first of the big changes that election night.
Wow, wow. And it's very interesting because I'm always amazed when, excuse me, when I see newcomers run for higher office at such a, like rookies. Like again, Kevin Adams never, he never held any political position before that. But here comes, Kevin Adams to the rescue to run for, Senate. As far as for Aaron Rouse, and I'm a Chesapeake guy. Virginia Beach is, I'm not a resident of Virginia Beach, but I can admire the growth of what Aaron Rouse has done because you're a hometown guy. You come back, you are you have a great career as a professional athlete. You come back as counsel for as a young person because I'm really big on seeing young people get more involved in politics because I think that I don't know. I guess young people doesn't have a good reputation amongst seniority, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I really like, especially minorities just come and saying, no, I want to make a difference and speak with distinction. And let's be honest, Aaron Rouse and his wife, who's a councilwoman out in Virginia Beach, Jennifer Rouse. I mean, they're a sharp couple. They're both sociology majors. It's like, okay, you're doing what you pursued in
She's
college.
a professor too.
Professor, that's right. Oh, yep, assistant professor over at a community college in Virginia Beach. I mean, they are doing it. But again, it was a very, very close race. I was in attendance at his campaign not campaign kickoff, at his watch party when he first won, and it was a historic win. It really was an historic win. But this is a very tight race, and of course, the attack ads galore. So then that's another conversation we're going to have. But okay, so you mentioned the
Because my second race might be one that actually highlights more of the attack ads. That's the Clint Jenkins versus Emily Brewer race, because that got very personal from Brewer's side about past allegations of abuse on Clint Jenkins, who's the current, he's a Democrat in the state Senate.
Mm-hmm.
The truth trackers of Wavy and stuff has said that all those were dismissed, that none of them were actually led to any convictions. But she being challenger candidate Emily Brewer was saying that there's still allegations and thus the people need to know or whatever. That's the type of politics that people hate about politics.
Yeah.
But it also it does sway races sometimes. So if that could be another one where Clint Jenkins is there, and he might not be because of something like that.
And the Clint Jenkins, that is also a Senate race, a state Senate race.
Yes.
Yep. And
I think that's the northern part of Portsmouth and then bleeding over into Suffolk.
Yep. Because I know his wife is running for delegate, Karen Jenkins. Oh man, there was I was watching an attack ad. Well, Mike Figgins and Karen Greenhall, Greenhall, and when I saw the attack ad against Mike Figgins, I'm like, wait, Mike hasn't even served. He served the country, but he's
literally served the country. Yeah.
He's never held a position. Also, I'm like, how's he getting attack ads already? Normally it's for the people that were in office for quite some time. It's like all these years, that's what they do. So the attack ads is interesting because for how much money I know they paid for those attack ads, I'm like, you couldn't maybe talk more of what your issues are and things like that, because I've seen and I've even read on a couple of candidates' websites where I'm like, okay, what are your issues? You're telling me a bio about you, and everybody will have the basic kind of thing: education,
Yeah.
economy, what else? That's usually the top two, and they just keep it in bold. Don't no added descriptions, and I get so tired because I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again. So they start off by saying, okay, I'm here for you. I'm here to do this, do that, do that, do this. And then by the time it's in office, a lot of promises are not being made. And I think that's what really runs people away from politics, where they're like, you know what, I don't even want to vote, because voter turnout is I don't know if it's increasing or if it's if it's increasing or decreasing. To me, I feel like it's decreasing, because a lot of young people um are, yes, they're starting to think of voting, the importance of voting, but sometimes they're
Mhm.
like, why waste my time? Then you actually see older people that either they choose not to vote, or you might have areas that prevent them from voting, because we mentioned before, like in
Chesapeake.
Chesapeake. Oh, I mean, come on, or taking away a couple, I think 2 or 3 precincts for early voting. That's a huge demographic where
Yeah, we
people is like,
touched on that last night with Goodwin, who I asked him about that. This is going to be part of your race,
mm-hmm,
how important that is to you, especially if they were in precincts that were in majority black areas. He did at least tackle the issue,
mm-hmm,
but I think he said that there was a decline in the amount of people
turnout,
going to vote. So that's the reason why to do it. And I also watched your show when you had Jeremy Rodden on.
mm-hmm,
By the way, people watch that so you can learn about Jeremy Rodden. He's a really great guy. He's like, no, it's because you only looked at a small sample size of like the last election cycle. You don't actually know if there is a decline.
mm-hmm,
You got to look at a larger, wide array. And I might personally contend that because of COVID allowed a greater access of early voting,
mm-hmm.
and at many different satellite locations, Virginia Beach did it, Chesapeake did it. They took it away in some places, but I think that would increase the total amount of people who otherwise would go, because there's plenty of reasons on one day only to vote to not show up that day. But
Mm.
that reasons go away if you have an entire month or so to do it.
Do you think do you think it's an agenda for possibly to end voting at those precincts, or at least to close those precincts for early voting? Do you think it was a slight agenda towards that?
Now, I know I'm a very progressive person, very
Mm-hmm,
anti-Republican, but I don't even know if they personally think that.
mm-hmm,
It's maybe it's so covert that they might not even fully realize that this is how you get over the years
mm-hmm,
the reputation of being anti-black.
mm-hmm,
You might not even personally feel that as a Republican running. You're like, I speak to these issues, but I also like this and this for voting. And in the end, if your suggestions end up taking away the possibility of a sizable amount of black people from being able to vote,
mm-hmm.
even if you didn't even have the negative thought in your head, the action still did what the complaint was about. Please address that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if that's like a literal playbook that
Mm-hmm.
they are going to be in the back room of the back room of the back room talking about, and then they decide to do it. Uh, it just is a thing that sort of happens with them.
Gotcha. To speaking on that interview, which I checked it out, man. Please check out Schesswho. Y'all subscribe. Great interview with Tony Goodwin, who is the Republican candidate running for Senate in the District 18th district, yes, against Senator Louise Lucas, who is been top of her game for a very long time. I mean, let's be honest. Let's look at her resume. She's was at the forefront of bringing a casino to Portsmouth, which is very successful.
Hmm.
And I believe cannabis. She was one of the front runners of legalizing cannabis.
Whole
Um,
family is. I think
wow,
there is another Lucas Burke, who is a councilwoman
councilwoman.
in
Yep.
Portsmouth, who is in as well. And personally, I don't mind. That is a holdover from my libertarian days.
Mm-hmm,
I don't mind full legalization of the
mm-hmm.
idea. If the entire high street in Portsmouth literally becomes a high street, I'm not against that.
I like that. High Street. I hope y'all got that one. That was a good one, Conrad. That was a good one. Uh, with that race with Senator Louise Lucas and Tony Goodwin, like, what's your take on that race? Do you see it being a close one, something that might not? I mean, after having the conversation with Tony on your show.
Known him for a little while because I knew him as far back when he ran for mayor. He's a Portsmouth guy. He has a lot of connections. Business guy. People know him in the community. They like him. He could outperform and still finish really far back because the district, look it up on, I think I would want to stump here for the Virginia Public Access Project webpage. It's a .org. You could type in any district for any of these races in the state. You will find out who's running and where their money is coming from. And you also get some good details on the actual, district breakdown itself. And I looked that up for Senate District 18. It is demographics is about 44% Black and 43% white. Then you also get the aspect that over the years, when it comes to governor races, state Senate races, not state Senate as in the General Assembly, but voting for a senator at the federal level in that district, it's like 60-40 Democrats over Republicans. So he could be the most neutral Republican, hey, everybody, or he could be a MAGA Republican. He's going to finish within 35 to 40 total points.
Gotcha. I'm more excited the closer we get towards this day. I'm like one of those kids. It's like the Super Bowl. Like, I want to watch the pregame. I got to see these. Like, I'm really like pumped about these elections. Okay, so let's come out of our local politics and let's kind of stretch it out on the let's talk about our current governor, Glenn Youngkin. So there's a lot of rumors. Some people are saying no, it's going to happen. Some to say, hey, look, it's just talk right now. Talking about him possibly making a bid for president of the United States. Now, in my opinion, I think it's extremely early because I'm like, has it been even like 3 years yet with him in office? But hey, there's people like when you're at that top, at your when you're at the top of your game, why not? You got to keep pursuing it. And I'll use sports for example. If your trajectory as a junior is very high in playing basketball, guess what? Is most likely you better enter the draft.
Letters.
Yep, you get letters, and you better enter that draft right now. If you want to wait and do it your senior year, and then something happens, well, there goes your stock. So, what's your take on current Governor Glenn Youngkin?
I luckily was able to meet him briefly at Week Hair Salon in Virginia Beach because he made a trip during his run. I would also like to stump for that business too because Jim Lynn is great. But he spoke, the room liked him. And it's sort of in that moment, I'm like, especially as a Democrat, I didn't like Terry. So because I didn't like Terry, I'm like, there's a general malaise of the entire state of Democrats who are like, well, my enthusiasm it's not that high right now. Republicans had a very big enthusiasm for him. Enthusiasm beats waning enthusiasm every time. And so he wins. And I'm always intrigued because I'm a big sports fan too. Hey, I actually play college ball. You get to see his commercials. He's shooting baskets. And he was also talking about how he sort of came up working in restaurants and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, but you were still the CEO of the Carlyle Group.
And how many years ago was that, buddy? Let's be honest.
It's not that long ago. It was actually that position of power, and it sort of reminds me in some ways of Democrat version would be Mark Warner. Because he helped create Nextel, if I recall, and he's worth like $400 to $500 million, and Glenn Youngkin's going to be worth a lot of money too. So they have the money to be able to run this. I guess becomes like their hobby for him. And when it comes to voting, you're always going to vote for personalities, more than a lot of great policy. Because some of the best policy wonks are the most boring people out there, and people aren't going to want to vote for them. Youngkin had that. He had that vest. Playing basketball and his things. And he, like you mentioned on your show when you had Marcus on, he did not talk about Trump at all, specifically avoided it. That way he can always get the Trump supporters because they're going to vote Republican. And he can get independents who this dude's a breath of fresh air. You get them both together, you're going to win. Now, here's the thing: if he is the current governor, and I'm not really seeing that many great things that he's doing, but then again, I don't really see all that often that many great things that, say, Terry was able to do when he was in office too. Um, it becomes okay. What do they want to do when they want to go to the
Mm,
next level? And I also liked when I watched Melissa on the show. She was talking about how he might then want to go a brief dipping of his toe into the water of running for president, get the money because he will get suddenly a lot of money into his political action committees,
that's true.
then drop out in order to run. I think it was against Tim Kaine because Tim Kaine ran in 18. So 6 years would be up in 24. And you may notice in Virginia, a lot of our senators are former governors. So it sort of matches direct because you have to run statewide. He already ran
Hmm.
statewide, and he sort of kept his name in the news cycle at all times. Now he has a reason to be in the news cycle at all times. People can talk about him from afar, and then he can bring those billionaires over to Virginia Beach to have his own ways to raise money. And even if he gets in, I don't even know if he would get the numbers as high as even Chris Christie is getting right now in the
Woo,
polls, which
woo.
is like
It's tough.
at best what 3 to 5%, because it's a race to finish second.
Yeah.
Trump's going to get it. So it's just who is going to be the guy who's high enough that he might consider him for a high office in his cabinet, or whether or not he can be VP, or just to use it to create another race that actually is more important. And that's like the minutia, the chess games here that we do for politics.
Yeah, I can remember like that election like it was yesterday. So I was actually in attendance at a Terry McCullough. It might have been his last event, honestly, before night with the voting was over. He did like some kind of entrepreneurship social over in Hampton. And I mean he spoke, you get your picture. Really you don't have but two words to say to him. But I would agree with you. I was not a wasn't a fan of him as the candidate, nor did I want him to be the candidate. I think there was at
I
least
like Jennifer
two
Carroll
other.
Foy.
I was it was well
There's also
not
McClellan.
McCullen and oh my gosh, Fairfax. Those
Mr.
two. I mean,
Fairfax, yeah.
she was a great candidate as well. The lady you named, and I just I didn't like it. Well, say okay, now he's a candidate. I didn't like the fact that okay, Youngkin doesn't even mention Trump's word at all, but you do. Like, don't try and beat him on, like trying to say, "Come on, I know you're gonna say it. I know you're gonna say," it. And he doesn't say. It just looks silly. And then, in my opinion, Terry McAuliffe had almost like, "Look, I've had this position before. I got this." He just, I don't know. It's just the energy was
Way
a
too
little different.
confident.
Very
Way
confident.
too
Very
confident.
confident.
He
And
ran
so
a very Hillary Clinton-like campaign.
oh man, it killed me. And then the fact of the matter is, like you said, a breath of fresh air. People wanted a new face, and Youngkin was that guy. Clean cut. Hey, played basketball back and forth, and he was cool as the candidate. I think when you start seeing some of the stuff that he is voting for to happen, it's like, wait a minute, whoa, time out, because you start seeing their true colors once they're holding that position. The campaign is all about a sales pitch, y'all. I mean, they're just trying to make that sale, and until they make, if you look at oh man, I talk about it all the time. Mike Pence and Tim Scott, in my opinion, they are like straight Hallmark channels. Like they just
Yeah.
they freaking will repeat their commercials during a debate, and I'm like, dude, can you please like take the script away and like actually talk? It's just it.
He did when he
Oh,
was going after Nikki Haley. He
oh,
really decided to throw hands with Nikki Haley for some reason, and they're from the same state. You think they would have liked each other,
good
but
luck, Tim.
yeah,
It's like, geez.
yeah. But think about it going back. Let's say I was born in '86, so yeah, I'm an older dude. But the 1980 election, the cool guy was Reagan because he's an actor, and
Hmm.
then he won 2 consecutive landslides. Bush versus Dukakis. Dukakis did that thing where he was with a helmet on a tank, and he's already a short guy. So Bush was the VP during Reagan, so that was a clear win. But then in '92, there was a recession. Clinton was the cool guy.
Hmm.
He really used TV very well. I think when he played saxophone on Arsenio Hall,
Yep.
he really humanized himself, so he would win for that. Um, there wasn't really that big of a challenger in 96, even though I would make a lot of comparison between Senator Aaron Rouse and Jack Kemp. Keep that in mind because they
Okay.
were
Okay.
great former football guys. But then when it came to 2020, who did the people want to have a beer with? George Bush. He was the one who won that one. Of course,
Mhm.
John Kerry was very former military guy, but tall, aloof. People didn't really grasp on with what he's talking. And remember, Melissa's talking about how Republicans speak in a more simple way
Yeah.
that people sort of gravitate to. So he wins against Kerry. And then who was the coolest politician of like the past 30 years? Barack Obama. It's a huge wave election of a personality.
Mhm.
2 consecutive terms for him. And then the dude from The Apprentice.
A
It's
show that
always,
I was a fan of. I'm not gonna lie. I was an avid watcher of The Apprentice.
you can't deny he's a great personality. You might hate what he does as a politician. The personality is there. People
Mhm.
gravitate to personality. So this is why I would make a suggestion that you would need someone better than Biden
Mhm.
to beat Trump, because Biden's personality is not really is one to gravitate to.
Yeah, and I think definitely moving on the federal side, like so Trump always, and again, I can't say I dislike a person if I don't know them. I'm That's always been me. If I don't know the person, I can't say, oh, I hate that guy. Well, I never even crossed paths with him. But I will say this: I'm a big judger of character first and foremost, and that character for me, complete turn off. I could care less at that point what his policies were. What threw me off with Trump was the fact that, okay, and you have Barack Obama, not never talks bad about Trump, never even mentions this man. Yet the one critic that criticizes your citizenship because of your middle name happens to be Hussein. He's like, oh, that shit.
And
Wait a minute.
spent over a year doing that birth certificate thing too.
And guess what? You know how many apology letters he sent Barack? Neither. It's like, and then of course, we go on what the man has done since then. It's just I can't get it. I see him being a breath of fresh air, and hey, not everybody are a fan of the Clintons. That really hurt. And on top of that too, I don't think America will ever be. And I'm not trying to have the women hate me on this, but I don't think America wants a woman in leading. I just me personally.
Nah, I'm not explicitly disagreeing. I mean,
Mhm,
there's never been a woman president. It's always the personality. You need to
yeah.
find the sort of the right one. I think Nikki Haley would do pretty good amongst other Republicans.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if there was actually a field right now that is a very um, true primary for the Democrats right now, because there are people running in the Democrat primary for president right now, but you just
Hmm.
don't hear them as much. RFK bolted to go independent. Marianne Williamson would probably be politically
Hmm.
better than Biden if you wanted to vote for that, but you don't get to see her because the DNC pulls back from even coverage of that at all. So we can't even look at it in 2024 like there's not going to be a woman on the ballot on the 2 major parties.
Hmm.
So it's the next 4 years, and I think in the next 5 to 6 years, you can see any number of people who are great women in politics right now ascend. I think it's very possible.
Let's talk about these candidates, because I've been very glued to the presidential debates. Of course, the Republican side, they have a slew of candidates running. Democrats very small, and now you're starting to have a few people or a couple people in the independent ticket. I'll start first with the lesser side. I'll start first with the Democratic. So you have, of course, Joe Biden running for re-election, and you mentioned earlier Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson, very sharp, would say progressive views as well.
Mhm.
Biden, currently 80 or 81 years old, running for re-election. Um, what is your what's your stance on Marianne Williamson as a candidate? Do you think she's playing her cards right now, campaign wise? Do you think, hey, this is a person where people should pay more attention at? And I'm not saying this as a progressive, but just as just a a a, a viewer of different politicians. What would you say about Marianne
Policy
Williamson?
wise, I would easily vote for her
Mm-hmm.
over Joe Biden, but she's not going to make it through the primary. It's just I'm going to say that's 99.99% sure that she will not make it through the primary.
Hmm.
So then what would be her recourse? She didn't get out to be an independent runner or join the Green Party, um, which now has a very open seat because Dr. Cornel West decided to leave that and also run independently.
Hmm.
If, for instance, hypothetically, Mary Ann Williamson is on the Green Party ticket, suddenly she would be able, on the day of voting, be on everyone's ballot. That's not something that she'll be able to do because she'll lose in the primary, then her name's gone. So
Hmm.
even if you write in her name, she wouldn't be a registered write-in, and she's certainly not going to get enough write-in votes to be a statistically significant threat to any of the two who would otherwise win, being Joe Biden and Donald Trump. But I also don't think she would poll horribly or anything if she was on the top of the ticket and Biden was not there.
You bring up, okay, so the Green Party, for the listeners, for those tuning into this show who's unaware of, who is not really into politics or has an understanding what politics, explain very brief the Green Party, and I want to ask the question after that is how, like, what's their ballot access, as far as for the states of the Green Party.
Well, remember that the base level to understand is that it's a different election process on the federal level because when you vote for president, there's an electoral college to have to deal with. So
Hmm.
each of these states is important. You got to be literally on all of these states to have, the ultimate reach to the public. The Green Party, I believe, was formed as recently as 1990,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. Comparison's sake, the Libertarian Party, which is numerically the largest third party, Green Party's fourth, was back in 1972, and they've been through all. I think the Libertarian Party has access on at least 49 to 50 states.
Okay.
In 2016, up until right around late October, Gary Johnson was actually polling pretty high for a libertarian on national polls, like between 5 and 10%. That would really have scared a lot of the two major parties if the libertarians had finished anywhere between 5 and 10%. He did his little Aleppo thing
Hmm.
and sort of cratered there. The Green Party had made their major heyday, I believe, in the 2000 election with Ralph Nader, because a lot of people blame him for Gore losing in Florida,
Hmm.
which was the state that was needed to get enough electoral votes to win overall. That's the type of thing what people are afraid of when they say that they being a hypothetical person stealing the votes of the two major party, be it the Democrats. And so if it's a prominent Green Party person, they would steal from the Democrats. And if it's a prominent libertarian, they would steal from the Republicans,
Hmm.
so on and so forth. So in Howie Hawkins was the Green Party person in 2020, if I recall, and it was Jill Stein in 2016.
Jill
Some
Stein. Okay.
people also believe that she negatively influenced Hillary Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton negatively influenced Hillary Clinton. But that's just my view of the past Monday morning quarterbacking politics here. So
Hmm.
going into 24, Green Party access should probably be between 45 and 50 states, which is a lot of states.
I was gonna say, that is.
And this is why, in the moment of time, for as brief as it was, when Dr. West was saying he's running in the Green Party to win
Hmm.
that nomination, you're like, then you will see Dr. Cornel West's name on every state pretty much. Because I think in that amount of time, the amount of money he'd be able to raise in his name would be able to help them get the remaining states. And then he would have all 50 states. That's his best chance. And
Hmm.
then he's now no longer in the Green Party, running independent. So is RFK. Does RFK and Dr. West have the ability to get on 30 states ballots? I don't know. You need money to get in to get all these signatures in each of these states. You need a huge machine to do that, which is why we have the two parties that do that, the Republicans and Democrats.
So campaign strategy wise, you don't think that it was smart for Cornel West nor RFK to go on the independent ticket? Are you saying that was a risky move in a sense? Because as far as for RFK, I feel like if he was on the Democratic ticket, his chances was very slim. I think independent might have been more beneficial because let's be honest, like majority of the very the Democratic Party is not in support of RFK because of, at least I can speak on, the anti-vax. He was very vocal about that. They're like, okay, we don't need this cat representing the Democratic side. So I feel like that really hurt him. I feel like there's other views of why they also didn't are not a fan of
I
RFK.
think that's based on energy policy and the
Mm-hmm.
environment. I think he's in some ways a little bit more libertarian on that,
Mm-hmm.
less of a federal government role, which is not what you expect the Democrats to be.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't like him for that as well. But the anti-vax stuff is near the top.
Yeah, yeah. And then with him now entering before I get with him, Joe Biden, he's also the other candidate in the on the Democrat ticket. I have no problems with Joe. I'm very vocal of saying, hey, look, I just think regardless if you're a healthy man, if you're sharp as a tack, 70 should be a top tier number. Because let's be honest, when people used to work just a 9 to 5, their retirement age was 65. They want to say, okay, look, 65, that's my goal. Or maybe 60. I could be wrong. It might have been 60 and then went up to 65. Now it's starting to shoot up even higher. But I feel like 70 years old is like a max count. You have a lot of great people that is at least in their mid to late 50s that are very sharp, that say, hey, look, let me take a jab at running for office. But again, that power is so priceless. It's hard to see a lot of seniority leaders right now in politics to let that go. It sucks to always, and not always, but hey, we saw Mitch McConnell freeze up multiple times.
Twice.
We've seen very, very sad to say the passing of
Dianne Feinstein.
Dianne Feinstein at 90 years old. Of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg on Supreme Court. She passed in while holding that position. I mean, there's multiple people in their 80s that are, and they keep on saying, oh, Biden's old guy. Look, Biden might be the youngest person, one of the youngest that's
Don't forget Trump's also 77.
77, just a few years shy. Exactly.
But of the two, people are like, he feels younger because he speaks younger. He speaks with a speed, and he doesn't have as much stuttering and just the inability to get through full sentences that it seems like Biden does. So because of that, it feels like he's even older than his 80 would denote.
It hurts him because it makes for people of the opposing side to criticize him and be more, saying, I'm pretty his cognitive is not sharp, man. I'm like, okay, let's be honest. When you are holding probably the toughest position in America, you're of a certain age where when you get older, your mind sometimes your mind slows down like when you were younger.
It happened with Reagan.
Yes, and then on top of that, he does have a stuttering problem. So it's like, I think they use that as kind of like just talking points to continue to criticize him even more. But I will say, seeing him run again, I don't think people want to see it. At the end of the day, everybody wanted to get Trump out. That was the main objective. So being that we got him out, okay, boom, now we have him out. Okay, now Biden, by the time you're getting finished, we'll have somebody in line too. But now he's like, nope, I'm running again, because you don't have anybody coming up to bat. I don't think later on in the election, anybody in the Democrats, I've heard Gavin Newsom's name mentioned. I don't think that would happen. And if it does, I don't think it will be successful, because so many people have started to go on against the state of California just because of the homeless, right? And he was one of the gentlemen that spoke about, hey, stay safe during the pandemic, stay safe, cover up all the good stuff, and then they catch him on video like, wait a minute, he's up. So it's very hard. It's very hard to forget stuff like that. So
he can also turn the corner real quick, because he seems the one who's very willing to go on Fox and debate Republicans. I think he's having already agreed upon Hannity as the moderator, debate with Ron DeSantis.
Yes.
That's the type of thing that could be very beneficial for him, because he seems very active and wanting to be a little punchy, and which is the type of personality people might suddenly feel reinvigorated with the Democrat Party again, even if his policies wouldn't be all that different from Biden's. It's him as a person that they would like better.
I didn't think about that, Conrad, because you're right. I will say, I think Democratic voters, I think, see the Democratic Party being slightly softer than the Republican side. Is like, okay, can you start making some jabs? Can you start reacting to that? So I forgot about that because I did read something about that. He has been very hey, I'm here. Contact me anytime. Let's do this anytime. So that is something to benefit. I forgot about that. Moving on to RFK and Cornel West. Now I'm a Cornel West fan. He is 70 years old, but I'm a fan.
Yeah, that's where my wife's vote will go. Is Dr. Cornel West.
Hey, let me tell you something. Because Cornel West, to me, represents how America should really flow. And what I mean by that is just his personality. Like he's he addresses everybody as brother and sister, regardless if he's talking to Chris Cuomo or Mark Levine or Anderson Cooper, anybody,
He's
regardless
on
of
Fox all the time. He's willing to be on TV.
He has been. I have seen him on Candace Owens show on the Daily Wire. I mean, he goes to the farthest of each side, which is very smart. And I think RFK has done the same thing. He's gone on Newsmax. He's gone any site on Rumble, you name it. He's been on there. But I do think that initially Cornel West was entered the People's Party. Never heard the People's Party. I'll be honest. I never heard the People's Party. And I started thinking of ballot access. So I'm like, okay, he changed to the Green Party. I'm like, okay, that's more durable. And now he went independent. Now, do you see it beneficial for RFK and Cornel West now running as independents on the independent? Do you see that beneficial for them, or do you see that you played your cards wrong? In my my opinion,
I initially think it's a playing of the cards wrong thing, and this is a guy who I constantly get stuff wrong. So I'm not going to say that I'm very confident that they chose incorrectly here, but it's all the ballot access to me, because you want to be able to be exposed to as many possible voters as possible. If you're independent, you have a chance you can be your own person. You don't have to be directed to by any other type of Green Party interest, or in RFK's case, the Democrat Party's interest. So you can run whatever campaign you want to do. But that's only going to matter if you have the money of a Michael Bloomberg. If you have $500 million, then you can get the entire machine. You can build your own party around yourself to go to each state and get on each ballot. And I'm not entirely sure Dr. Cornel West or RFK, for that matter, can raise the money to build the machine necessary to run across the entire United States.
I agree on Cornel West. RFK is different in my opinion because I think he has a lot of conservative support. I do think that there's a lot of Republicans that are like saying, I can support, RFK. And that's just my opinion. I think RFK is somebody to watch out for. Cornel West, I don't think his chances are too high, but RFK, I think he would receive. And that's my opinion why I think he ran for as far as independent, because I think for one, he wouldn't be the nominee on the Democratic ticket, and on top of that, too, if he would have had that letter in front of his name, I don't think his conservative supporters would be like, no, I can't. Maybe if he goes independent, I'm more liable to do that. But now that he's independent, now they're worried the fact that it might change the numbers or reel some voters from Trump. Now that he is an independent and not a Democrat. Now, moving on to
we'll have to see that more with more polls of the next couple of weeks to see if they're going to include RFK as another candidate. It doesn't list a party, but just another candidate. And we'll see if that's starting to affect Joe or if it's starting to affect Trump.
Gotcha. Before we end the show, I definitely want to go into the Republican side. Because obviously y'all can see this is a great conversation that I feel like will end probably next week, but hey, just stay with us. So we're on the Republican ticket. There are at least the debate stage, I think there were like 7 people, if I'm not mistaken. There was Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Mike Pence, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Chris Christie,
Doug Burgum.
Okay, that's the man I was. I think Asa Hutchins is he still?
He was
still
on
running?
the first one, but he didn't make the second one.
Okay, and I know Will Hurd.
He hasn't dropped out. They haven't dropped out.
He's still running. Okay, I know Hurd had just dropped out of Texas and is endorsing Nikki Haley. Who is the Republican that has honestly caught your attention and say, they're doing quite good? Because I have one in mind, but I'm curious to catch who has been catch your attention on the Republican
The
ticket?
one who caught my attention was Vivek,
Mm.
but that sort of crested right during, and not completing, but during the first debate, and then he sort of has been tailing off a bit.
Mm.
It seemed like a lot of the candidates up there didn't like that he is pulling another Trump.
I was about to say Trump Jr.
Yeah, he's deliberately trying to reach into that because I think, much like politics, is much like sports. If you see something working, then you copy it and you do it yourself. And because of that, he's trying to sound like Trump, glorify Trump as much as possible, because if you're running in a Republican primary, you're not going anywhere if you don't have the Trump base, because that is the grassroots base of the party now. It would be like Joe Biden saying, I don't like the leftists. Well, you're not going to get anywhere if you did that. So you need to court the Trump voters just to finish second to Trump, because you're not going to take them away from the guy who had it in the first place. I think Vivek is showing himself to be probably so good at supporting Trump while running himself for president that he might be lifted up into Trump's maybe running as a VP or something to that effect. Chris Christie, I know he was running deliberately to poke at Trump because he'd been stabbed in the back by Trump, like Trump does to everyone he does. But that's what, going to get him 5% at a best. Mike Pence, he seems like he's fallen by the wayside. I mean, even with January 6th, you see that the base no longer liked him. So I'm not going to say Pence did that. Nikki Haley, I think, would always be in the top 5 sort of thing. And because of that, so she might be back into a Trump cabinet again if that comes around. And Tim Scott, I think, is just going to, he'll stay a senator, which to me is a very cushy job. I would love to be a United States senator because you can do that as long as Mitch McConnell did.
Yeah.
And I think Tim Scott could do that as well. Asa Hutchinson, he never got off the ground. Doug Burgum, I liked his commercials. I like the fact that he put them right smack in the middle of NFL games. I'm like, that's how you get eyes. But it's North Dakota. No one's really going to care about that, to be honest. So,
It's true. It's true.
And yeah, it's sort of Vivek's personality. And I haven't mentioned DeSantis yet. That's because he was the woke guy. He always spoke about wokeism. And Trump even sort of distanced himself from that. It's like no one can even really define it. So Trump's, for about a year, realized that DeSantis was going to be the guy who was a big threat to him. So he's been fighting specifically DeSantis for so long that DeSantis will probably finish second. That's probably my best.
I'm surprised. So you're saying Nikki Haley could possibly say if Trump wins, and he offers her, you think she would actually take on that position? Because I feel like she's been very vocal of Trump. I mean, majority of her campaign, and
she has, but it's just because these are people who have a very big ambition to do it, and because they have their own ambition, they're willing to. Do you remember the picture of Mitt Romney sitting down to dinner with Trump, and the face that was on Mitt Romney's face, realizing that he had to do what he had to do because he's trying to get into Trump's administration, and he's going to get it. So yeah, he can afford to be as anti-Trump as he wants, knowing that he'll never get Trump support. But up until that point, everyone tried to. Chris Christie was in Trump's administration.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley was in Trump's administration. I see she could go back if she once again bends the knee.
And I think that's what turns off a lot of citizens is the lack of authenticity. Like, be authentic. If you say what you say and don't turn around and take the bait. I would say this on the Republican ticket, Nikki has been kind of like my person that is really, I could see her if she had won, I'll be like, you know what, hey, she's one of the good Republicans, I would say. Like,
you can call her a statesman too. Well, stateswoman in her instance, because she's been like, what was it, Secretary of State or something? Yeah, no, UN ambassador. It was UN ambassador.
It was UN ambassador, and then she was governor of South Carolina, and she was at the bottom before the first debate had started, she was at the very last. That, to me, those last two debates has been in her favor because she's definitely showed up on the first one. She's the only female up there.
She
She's
played
not
ball
scared.
with them,
She
and
played
she
ball
had
with them,
talent when she did it.
and she was speaking on. Excuse me. She was speaking on. She was pointing out facts. She was not scared to go after her own party. She was not scared to go back and forth with Vivek Ramaswamy, who, again, to me was actually more of a tool bag, the first one. And then after that second one, people are like, okay, so can we all just gang up and take this guy out of here? Because the smile, he's a billionaire. I'm not even 40 yet. I'm shoving that in my face because I got money and I'm calling you all. Like, come on, it's a little odd. And I mentioned earlier in the show, Mike Pence, Tim Scott, stay with Hallmark. Like, they're very like, hey, that American dream, God bless you and God bless. I'm like, put me to sleep.
It's tired.
And then Ron DeSantis, who can't forget his award-winning smile when the event started, like it's just, whoa.
He's
What
a
is
very
this?
robotic person. You can
Very
see
bad
how
at
he's
very bad
struggling
at the
with the
debates.
smile like that.
Awful at the debate. So Chrissy's just there just to, he wants Trump. That's all that he's there for. He wants to go head to head with Trump, but that's never going to happen because Trump's never going to go on the debate stage. But it is an election. It's just election season. I mean, again, we've spoken on this show so far on the local. We got some very big ones. Hopefully we will have another conversation during the election night here locally, and from time to come with on the federal side. But Conrad, I truly appreciate you, man, taking the time out your schedule, coming here on the Arrington Gavin podcast. How can our viewers and listeners continue to support you and follow you and all that great stuff?
Well, I'd say the first thing that started me on this road was Facebook. So look up Conrad Schesventer for Virginia, because that's where I'm going to spend a lot of my time debating and talking about politics. When I come on YouTube, it's Schesswho, also the Beach Brothers Show, and of course the Community Action Team. I would love you guys to look at the Community Action Team on Facebook, read the description, hit us up on email, join it, because we want to grow that group as well. So I want you in Chesapeake and Norfolk and Virginia Beach and Portsmouth and Suffolk, Newport News and Hampton to start looking at your local politics and weigh them the way they should be, whether or not they're actually doing anything good for your community. Join us and chat it up and talk about great politics that way.
Love it, man. I love it. Well, look, y'all, Conrad and I, we're going to chop it up a little bit after the show. But again, thank you so much to Conrad. And once again, y'all, thank you so much for tuning to another great episode of the Arrington Gavin podcast. Please tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And also 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via YouTube, Facebook. Our Facebook page is our Smooth Club Podcast. And find us on X, formerly known as Twitter. Got to remember to say that because there's going to be an older person like, what is X? Is that like a new social? What is it? No, it's Twitter. It's Twitter, just Twitter. So check us out on those platforms and continue to support the show, support great content. Again, y'all be easy, stay blessed out there, stay safe. I will see y'all next time with more here on the Arrington Gavin podcast. Deuces.